Today, we're going to be ranking every song in the Minecraft OST from worst to best up to the Tricky Trials update. While I'm sure that my list will be controversial in some ways, I have only one thing to say. If your opinions don't line up directly with mine, you are wrong and probably a communist. Yeah, just kidding, but really though, I enjoy talking about music, and in particular the music that made mine and a lot of other people's childhood memorable. I would love to talk in the comments about any disagreements, so please leave a comment and consider liking and subscribing, as this is a very small channel. Without further ado, let's get into the ranking. Death is featured in the Volume Alpha soundtrack, but never plays in-game. It's not even a song, so I don't feel that it deserves to be any higher than last place.
Boss is nothing but end ambience, and I forgot it while making this list. I really don't care about it, so I'm not going to talk about it more than I need to.
Like Death, 11 can't be considered a real song. Rather, it tells the story of a player exploring underground, lighting a candle, flint and steel, coughing, and writing in a book. The player hears some sort of monster and runs away deeper into the cave, digging through stone and dirt until eventually the sound of what seems to be an Enderman is heard, and it cuts to static. While 11 has an elevated place in the mysterious intrigue of the game, it certainly isn't something I would listen to outside of playing it once in a new world. Five is the most recent of the lore-related music discs. It features many distinct parts, as it is crafted using 9 different disc fragments found within ancient cities. We hear bats flying through a cave, followed by the marching of troops on dripstone. We then hear an ender sound from Minecraft dungeons, followed by a shift to calming music. We then cut to someone in a cave until we hear a boom, followed by a forge core, again from Minecraft dungeons. We then find ourselves in a warped forest, signified by the crackling in the background. We soon hear the sound of the Skulk Shrieker. It ends with roar of a warden and the death sound of the Wither. It is a great lore disc, sparking theories about the ancient city. Unfortunately, it is still not something I would listen to more than once. Disc 13 is filled with underground cave ambience. 13 is what comes to mind when I think of old beta Minecraft. The game back then was much more mysterious, with funky world generation, thick fog, a smaller community, and rumors of a malevolent player with glowing white eyes that could be watching you at any point. The disc reflects the uneasiness of the early days of Minecraft, whether you are making an altar to summon Herobrine or cowering from monsters on your first night. While I love the feelings that this disc calls back, it sadly can't compare to the other actual songs on this list. Key gives me the sense of wandering. There's no real destination or building upon the base melody. It's also only a minute long, so even if you enjoy it, there isn't much time to let it set in. In fact, if you are concentrating hard on something, when the song comes on, I feel like it would be easy to miss. It's just meh. Just like Key, Oxygen is only a minute long. However, it is more interesting than Key, with a short build-up to the climax before slowly fading away. Other than that, these two are almost interchangeable. While Warmth provides excellent background ambience to the Nether, it isn't a great listen outside of that. The main tune is submerged in distortion that makes you feel the evil of the Nether, but drowns out what I'm actually trying to listen for in the song. The main tune itself isn't that much to write home about. I need more than just a small bit of intrigue at the end of the song to make it interesting. Ancestry is a fittingly dark, sad, and forgotten soundtrack, much like the ancient cities in which it is played. However, outside the environment it is meant to play in, it isn't a fun listen with only a few moments that stand out. Endless is the boring version of Infinite Amethyst. While the overall tune is the same, there isn't anything there in terms of sound experience. In the middle of the song, there's a note played repeatedly, making one think that there might be something it would be building up to, only to turn it into nothing yet again. While there is beauty and simplicity, this one offers just way too little. Melahai is the shortest music disc and sounds like a slow waltz. It presents a more creepy tone, which while refreshing from the C418 tracks, doesn't fit any mood I generally associate when playing the game. Also, it moves too short for what I'm looking for in a music disc.
Excuse is the better version of Key. It likewise presents a feeling of wandering. While nothing special, the melody flows well enough and builds nicely upon its base.
"11" is a great meditative track, but unfortunately it ends too short at 1 minute and 11 seconds, fitting for the name. It's also unfortunate that it doesn't play in-game, as it would fit in well with the classic soundtrack we already hear. The melody is fine, but nothing spectacular, which I feel is okay for what it's trying to accomplish. Moog City 2 is a good listen and fits very well with the title string. The reason it ends up low on the list, though, is because of how I feel it drastically downgrades on the original track, but we'll get to that one later. After the 1 minute mark, it gets sort of boring compared to the first half. The second is just too soft and doesn't build upon anything to keep me engaged. Equinox, while short, builds to a great crescendo. Even though it repeats the same tune throughout the whole song, the escalation of pitch and background soundscape makes it memorable. So Below is a fitting track for the Soul Sand Valley. Deep rumbling fills the background, which gives it a fittingly evil touch. The slow, high-pitched piano and far-off drums also help to bring out the creepiness of the song. Overall, pretty good as an ambience track, but it isn't something I would listen to outside of Nether.
Droopy Licks Your Face is one of the most unique songs from the Minecraft OST, thanks due to the usage of voice. While this may be at first unsettling comparing with the other classic C418 tracks, it gets better after listening for a while, I think. On top of that, the groovy instrumentals keep me engaged throughout its entirety. Well, it's fine. It does take a while to get used to, I think.
Key is short but dynamic. It starts with an ambient soundscape that reminds me of outer space. This is followed by what I think sounds like a foghorn, and an awesome build-up that bursts out into the void before fading away. C418 said that he imagined this song playing after you defeat the Ender Dragon, and I can definitely see this fitting well in the end's atmosphere. Mall is a nice, calm, lo-fi beat that I feel would work perfectly in an underground scenario. Maybe going down a minecart track in a mineshaft. It's not too long nor too short, which means the ideas it presents have just enough time to build, but don't end up getting stale. It's a good every so often type of music disc for me, but it isn't anywhere near the top of my go-to discs. Floating Trees is a very soothing and meditative song. Its sweeping soundscape makes me think of, well, the very thing the title conveys. Trees floating in a sea of fog in the early morning. While there isn't much variation in the tune, I don't think it needs any for what it's trying to accomplish. It isn't about the interesting experience of listening, but rather the restful state it intends to put you at.
Much like Floating Trees, Floating Dream puts me in the same calming, restful state. Although this time, instead of a foggy morning, this one makes me picture a snowy evening. Also, unlike Floating Trees, I think the soundscape of this one builds upon the initial idea. Not much, but just enough for it to be satisfying all the way through. Wending is a song that I unfortunately don't have much in-game experience with, since I rarely find myself in mountains or dripstone caves long enough to really hear it. I think it fits both locations well, conveying a sense of large scale and cold atmosphere, especially towards the latter half of the song, where there is what sounds like the falling of water loudly upon rock that fills space using reverb. It's overall quite satisfying to listen to. Dry Hands is a short but classic overworld song. I like the tune presented, but I can't help but feel the brevity doesn't let me enjoy it for too long while playing the game. I don't think this is much of a problem listening outside of Minecraft though. Overall, it's fine. The first half of Kyoto isn't my favorite, but it turns around during the second part. I get the sense of being in a large Gothic cathedral or a windy cherry grove. Even though it's not that memorable, the meandering melody is pretty nice to nod side to side with. Rubido sounds sad. It starts out with a rather melancholy piano solo, but as it progresses, the reverb and distortion of the Nether starts to pull it away until it completely overtakes it by the end. It sort of whisked away back into the endless fog. It's one of those creepy songs that I don't actually mind hearing when they pop up when listening outside the game, especially while sitting outside at night. Chrysopia plays in the Crimson Forest. It sounds just like what I would want to hear in a forest within a fiery chasm. It is like it's secluded from the rest of the Nether, as the usual distortion present in Rubido and other Nether tracks isn't present here. It also has an underlying sound of foliage crunching in the background, which has it closer to the forest atmosphere. While it isn't the most special of the Nether tracks, I like how cozy it feels compared to the usual dangerous wastelands that make up the Nether. While Chrysopia presented safety and cozy relief from the Nether, Ballad of the Cats does the opposite. It features two build-ups that both rise until releasing in a loud, shaking rumble at the end. The title is a reference to the Ghasts, which had their sounds taken from C418's Cat. It presents both their dangerous yet sad nature, which makes it a very fitting track for the Nether. Beginning is a nice play on the classic Minecraft theme. It presents one part of an idea, but sadly doesn't expand on it much further. Even so, it's a nice listen when it comes up in another song, which I'll get to later, expands more, so its brevity doesn't bother me as much. Yakusoku is our first entry from the Tricky Trial soundtrack. While the song is fine, the chimes toward the second half kind of throw me off. It's as if they are created outside the song itself, which, while interesting, breaks up the peaceful, restful nature of the rest of the song. It's overall quite good, but there are just so many more better songs on this list. Poco Poco is what I would describe as bubbly. It's there, it's chilling. There are many things it makes me think of. I can picture a slow boat ride down a lazy river. They're also sort of like a fresh snowy morning in the countryside. It's got the beauty of simplicity. Nothing too fancy, but it's nice to hear.
The end would be much higher on this list if it wasn't for the long runtime of 15 minutes. The soundscape created is actually really interesting, with parts of Volume Alpha song seeping into the atmosphere only to be distorted, mutated, and consumed back into the evil of the end. The main Minecraft theme starts playing, becoming distorted and fading back into the loud and eerie crackle. Wet Hands, Subwoofer Lullaby, and Danny follow after, only to be consumed into the void again. The standout of the song is in the middle, where Sweden begins to overtake the static, becoming louder and more triumphant. Until the end fights back, overtaking it, ripping it apart in a barrage of noise. For a while, it seems as if the end has won, until an outside force steps in, cutting off the ambient noises and playing the first few notes of the main Minecraft tune, started at the beginning of the song, but now undistorted. He then takes it off entirely, resetting everything to a calm state. While it is truly fascinating to delve deeper into the song, it isn't a great listen outside of the end, so it's gonna have to be on the lower end of the middle songs. Intro is another very interesting song that doesn't play in-game. Someone enters a room, sits at a piano, and begins to play a simple tune. Throughout the song, you can hear the press of every key, and the player begins to hum. The tune, while never changing, is seen accompanied by a background piercing sort of noise. It invokes a reflective tone. Think back on everything you've done, and be proud to have done it. It also brings to mind the sight of someone sitting on a grassy hill overlooking a sunset. After experiencing all of C418's work throughout Volume Beta, it's nice to have something that harkens back to the simplicity of his work from Volume Alpha. Comforting Memories works in many situations, whether it is exploring or just building your base. It reflects back on the fun you've had, just as the name suggests. I like it. That's all I can really think to say. Komorebi is a more interesting version of Comforting Memories. It utilizes the same bass tune, but brings more unique sounds to the soundscape. I have the same feeling about it overall. Shiniji, like the other C418 underwater tracks, perfectly captures the feeling of exploring the ocean. While it is a good song on its own right, I don't think it does much to stand out from the other songs. It's just alright. The Music Box version of Creator takes the intro from the main song and extends it into a fully realized Music Box track. The tune is the same as the regular disc, which I think is very good on its own right, and the length is just right to give you a reason to listen if you don't want to hear the full Creator song. It's just a presentation of an idea, really, so I think the short run time is pretty good for what it's trying to achieve. To me, Far presents the image of an amplified jungle mountain. The instruments are used to connect the player to the serenity of nature, untouched by the progress of men. It's a perfectly nice disc, and actually quite pretty. Chris is exclusive to the Volume Alpha soundtrack. It's a fun listen with a unique progression of notes compared to other Alpha songs. Airy plays in swamps, forests, and jungles. It's a somber piece marked with a longing horn and slow piano. I like how it feels as if the song is traveling in the wind, blowing through the trees of the forest in which it plays. While I don't like listening to Airy all the time, It's a good one to come on every once in a while. An ordinary day plays in both lush and dripstone caves and snowy slopes. It captures the grand space of the high-ceiling caves well by creating an atmosphere with echoes in the background, reverb, and drawn-out piano notes. The highlight is when the music swells in the middle, accompanied by small bass drops, which further capture the scale of the caves. It's a good song to have playing when mining, as it keeps my mind off the dangers that may lurk around me. I associate Clark with rainy days in Minecraft. The sound of rain falling mixes perfectly with the slow, drawn-out strings and simple piano melody. It also gets a few points for being a classic song. Minecraft is the vanilla Minecraft song. That's why it's in the middle of the list. There isn't anything bad about it, nor is there anything quite exceptional. It fits any scenario you might find yourself in, which makes it never seem out of place. Just like the game, it's simple yet fun. Puzzle Box has a mechanical quality to it. Machines doing tasks around your base, or maybe you're working on a more mechanical project. The sounds are rigid and well constructed, which gives me the sense of an orderly work environment. A familiar room harkens back to the old C418 style of music, and is in my opinion the most faithful of the modern Minecraft songs to what came before. It's comprised of only a piano, and it's pretty simple. The tone is nice and relaxing, perfect for whatever you may be doing at the time. The conclusion of the song is also quite satisfying. Firebugs plays in swamps and various forests. It decently captures the environment of the swamp well, and it has a more wild side to it. I find it rather pleasant. Blocks is an interesting listen, with many little ideas that aren't explored much in the rest of the C418 soundtrack. It also has a rural feel to it, which I quite like. It's another perfectly acceptable music disc. Ward starts out with probably the strangest opening of any of the music discs. However, it isn't anything like the rest of the song, which sounds like old retro games. It's a pretty fun music disc to listen to. It's also one that I might consider dancing along with in-game after a hard day's work with my friends. Danny is another classic overworld song that carries itself in a positive manner. While it doesn't stand out to me as much as some of the other classics, it's still recognizable in its own right and pretty fun. Relic, like many other discs, goes out into an area of the soundtrack that isn't touched in the base game. It's retro-sounding with great uses of synths and 8-bit sounds. It's nice and fast-paced, but can lose my attention near the end. Dragonfish leans into the sounds of the underwater world more than the other two Aquatic tracks. You can almost hear the sounds of creatures calling from the deep, and it is composed of bubble-like rhythms. It might not be the most memorable song on the list, but it does great for immersion.
Moog City reels you in with the first part and keeps you there for a dynamic finish, building to a satisfying conclusion at the end. It's a shame it was removed for the less superior Moog City 2, which drastically tones down the ending.
Cat is the vanilla Minecraft music disc, being the first one back in Volume Alpha. There's nothing to hate, and it's actually a groovy little bop to throw in every once in a while. I do feel like it's a little overhyped, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Mutation is a mutation of the original Minecraft theme. It adds reverb, strings, and synth to create a more dynamic song that takes up a lot more space. It's a perfect welcome to the game, but there is only one more intro song that I find better. Concrete Halls encapsulates the danger of the Nether with all sorts of creatures sprinkled throughout it, the most notable of which are the ghasts heard at the end of the song. It is a mechanized uniform beat which juxtaposes the free-flowing nature of the overworld biomes. It's a creepy track that I actually enjoy listening to. Deeper plays in the deep dark in Dripstone Caves. It conveys a darker and more mysterious tone, which isn't explored in the same way anywhere else in the soundtrack. I also really enjoy the drums echoing throughout the background of the song, which give it an air of exploration. Watcher takes motifs from another Aaron Cheroff song, Echo in the Wind, but mixed it up with chimes and a sweeping piano melody. What is interesting about this song is that you can hear background noise from the room in which it was recorded. The audio picks up the creaking of floorboards, rustling of the breeze, and breathing from the composer. It's an overall pretty track.
Haunt Muskie stands out the least from the other creative tracks, but is still very fun and memorable with its sweeping soundscape. Going forward, all creative mode songs will be in the higher tiers, as I have the most nostalgic memories tied with them, and this one is no exception.
Wait, or the superior title, Where Are We Now, is my most nostalgic music disc, as it reminds me of playing on the Xbox 360 with my friends as a child. The tune is fun and bouncy, and was actually my first favorite music disc, which bumps it up quite a bit. Stand Tall is a classy sounding track that makes me think of an early morning in a pine forest. It's laid back in terms of dynamic melody, and has a very strong identity that makes it stand out among the other Caves and Cliffs releases. Flakes uses samplings of a balloon being rubbed to create a bouncy beat. Because of this, it stands out from most other songs, and if a song is to be placed higher on the ranking, it needs to stand out. Flake does just the thing. Infinite Amethyst is a song that I rarely hear, as it only plays in dripstone caves and groves. It's quite a shame really, because it is one of the most beautiful pieces that Lena Raine has created, and one of the most beautiful pieces in the entire soundtrack. It's a dynamic song that echoes throughout the caves, exploring both size and wonder. Stall is a sweet jazzy piece that just does not care. This disregard for the structure that goes into making a good jazz song makes it both a cool listen and a little humorous. I find it great every time I put it in. Axolotl is the epitome of the deep ocean. It presents an atmosphere of floating within an endless void, except you look up, and there is a slight glimpse of sunlight. However, you don't grasp for it. Downwards deeper into the sea, with all sorts of creatures, is your reality right now. You are content to float there. It's the perfect underwater track. Left to Bloom plays in all overworld biomes, but is most emphasized in meadows and lush caves. It has a floating energy into it, as the piano uses tasteful reverb to create echoes. The usage of woodwinds and high-pitched notes contribute to a sense of nature. The whole song just feels grand. I feel like the nostalgia might blind me a bit here, but I don't really care. Wet Hands is one of the first few songs that come to mind when thinking about the classic soundtrack. It's overall a good tune, and I always enjoy hearing it in game.
dead voxel brings a sense of comfort to the Nether, which is impressive, making the Minecraft equivalent of hell peaceful. It sticks out to me more than any of the other Nether tracks, as I have more memories of it while playing as a child.
Math is most notable for its use of the handpan throughout the song. The tune that picks up during the second half is a favorite of mine when working in creative mode. It doesn't stick around too long, nor does it end too prematurely. It has ample time to explore all corner it wants to, and I rather like that. I love it, but there is one better version. Eld Unknown plays throughout dripstone caves and mountains. Like the title suggests, it dives into the unknown of the game. It is another very unique overworld track with a grand soundscape that makes it more of an experience than a song. Dog is the better version of Cat. It is another one that is exclusive to the alpha volume. The tune is the same upbeat one used in Cat, but it is morphed into a lot more bouncy and energetic overall. It also has a grander sense of scale, which makes it stand out against the more grounded music disc covers. Droopy Likes Ricochet is also exclusive to the alpha volume. It starts with a piano intro and blossoms into a fast pace with excellent percussion used to keep you nodding along. It's an overall a memorable listen, and it's a shame that it's not used in the base game. Door is, as the name implies, a doorway into the Minecraft soundtrack. It plays near the beginning of Volume Alpha, and features a version of the main theme that I can only describe as inviting. The reverb used also gives you the sense that you are entering into a wider world. Peak Step is a fire track, which is fitting as it comes from the Nether. It's always fun to throw in the jukebox after an exploration with my friends. It's a standout among the music discs, but I do think it's a little overhyped. Featherfall is the best from the new Tricky Trials OST. It gives the feeling of slowly falling through the sky. There is nothing around you but clouds and the breeze. It's a really relaxing listening experience. Living Mice, like a lot of the other classic songs, serves a spot in the high tiers, and this may be bumped up by nostalgia. That being said, it's one of the nicest of the Volume Alpha tracks, and always enjoyable when it plays in game. Beginning 2 is the best of the title songs. It fills plenty of space, and the use of the choir makes it stand out among the other title songs. The end of the song, while it slows down, still stays interesting. It's personally what I think of whenever picturing the title screen. Bromeliad plays throughout various forests in the overworld. It places you in the feeling that you are in a private but vibrant garden. The song progresses to a whimsical conclusion and fades into the distance. The Trails and Tales soundtrack has been my favorite of the recent releases, and this song shows why. Subwoofer Lullaby is a stress reliever. If I've ever got a lot of pent-up stress, this song is a great go-to. It's one of the most calming of the classic overworld tracks, as it only does one thing at a time, but does it in a very tasteful and organized way. Chirp begins with a bossa nova sample, but progresses into one of the most energetic, fun, and upbeat tunes in C418's inclusion in the soundtrack. It progresses to an excellent conclusion, which alone I could listen to over and over again. It's an excellent music disc. Biome Fest is another song from my earliest days of Minecraft. It sounds to me as if you were in the sky, viewing the entire world from the top down. It's generally a nice upbeat song that keeps me engaged while building, and it's very memorable, too, like most creative tracks. Drighton is another very memorable creative track. Like Aria Math, it uses the hand pan to great effect to give it a distinct identity. It is used to create sort of a popping melody that reminds me of popcorn. It also concludes with one of the most solid endings of any Minecraft song, scratching any itch I have for more. Other Side is the perfect disc to pop in after a long journey. It looks back over the whole world we've explored and conveys a sense of accomplishment with its upbeat dynamic performance. I also love the usage of trumpets in this track. The only qualm I have is how abrupt it ends. Other than that, it's a near perfect music disc. Hagstrom stands out due to its use of a simple xylophone melody. This is a case of beauty and simplicity. While the song is not complex in really any way, it builds nicely on itself, and it's just a real cozy experience, especially while playing late at night. My Song Venus can be separated into two halves. The first is a melody that might greet you in the early morning as you start your day. It is an upbeat rhythm that works in any scenario you might find yourself in. The second half I have distinct memories hearing during exploration in my early survival days. I love how it meanders and steps away from the traditional ambience. It gives me the sense of building your first small house, maybe placing something here and there, and maybe going back to tweak it later if it doesn't look right. It is a perfect Minecraft song to me, as I think it captures the early game quite well. Labyrinthine encapsulates a perfect sense of the wild. It plays primarily in jungles and swamps, which it helps give a sense of mystery and lushness. It puts you in the middle of an expedition. Overall, the song itself is really fun to listen to and progresses into a grand sound experience, which makes it a favorite of the Lena Rain additions to the overworld. It's time for the top 10. First up, we've got Echo in the Wind. Echo in the Wind is a perfect, meditative, restful track. It conveys just what the title suggests, floating through the wind throughout a great valley that echoes back at me. It is one of the most beautiful in the soundtrack, displaying wonder, mysticism, reflection, safety, and peace. An excellent piece. Crescent Dunes plays in deserts and badlands. It conveys a great sense of adventure when crossing the desert in search of lost temples to look for ancient wonders. It also has an interesting sense of age, as it comes from an age long past. Strad used to be my favorite music disc for a long time, until somewhat recently, so it has a special place within my heart. I love the tropical vibes and how it relates to the rest of the classic Overworld songs. While I like it when music discs explore other aspects of the musical world, Strad combines the familiar with a touch of flavor that is just delightful. You can't get much more classic Minecraft than with Sweden. It is the Minecraft song that we all remember growing up, encapsulating all the Minecraft soundscape is. Because of this, it deserves this placement. Blind Spots is the most upbeat of the Creative Mode soundtrack. It is also one of the most engaging songs in the whole soundtrack. A lot of my love for this song also stems from my childhood, as it is one of the most recognizable songs for me to tie to memories I have with my friends. One More Day best encapsulated the classic Minecraft songs out of all of the new releases. The instrumentals are through the roof with this one. While it is simple and meandering in nature, it is extremely engaging and oddly personal. It's actually my favorite overworld track, beating out the classics, which is quite impressive. Creator is the perfect modern music disc. It makes me picture a tinkerer's workshop with all sorts of machines, making everything run like clockwork. It is full of charm and personality, and I really like the use of the harpsichord and electric guitar to give it both a sophisticated yet fiery manner. It is actually what inspired my survival base, which is showcased on the channel already. However, there is one disc which I feel takes the #1 spot. Precipice is not just a song, but a whole experience of its own, even outside the confines of the game. It is so energetic and bursting with fun that it is almost hard to stop from dancing along with it. It blew me away the first time hearing it, to the point where I was speechless afterwards. And the 7 escalations of that one line at the end, each time becoming more dynamic with more and more being added to the climax, into a brilliant release at the end. This song is perfection. Tazwell leads you in with a sweeping ambience that is sort of like an appetizer for the main course. When that main course does start though, man is it good. It doesn't hesitate to start building, presenting you with what I can only describe as a celebration of life. In fact, when writing this song, C418 wrote the first half to be a lament for a dead friend, but the second to be a celebration of the life he lived. Each layer added adds so much more flavor until it fades out before building right back to an all-out barrage of sound. It is the most memorable of the Creative Mode songs, and the most inspiring song in the entire soundtrack. Although, there is one song that tops it. Alpha is the journey of you, the player. It plays at the end credits after you've beat the Ender Dragon. It begins with a thoughtful look back that tells you, you made it, be proud, before going into the rest of the piece. You proceed into a recollection of your journey, the simple early days of adventuring into caves for iron, hunting animals for food, and waiting out your first night. It picks up as you become more advanced, creating a base, farms, gathering more resources, exploring the local area, and developing all sorts of different projects. It then shifts yet again as you advance to new dangers, exploring into the wider regions of the world, taking on enemies, and locating your goal to beat the game. Finally, the slow rendition of Sweden fades into the remaining minute of the song, yet again grounding you. This is C418's masterpiece. It is Minecraft to its very core, and no other song will ever come close to dethroning it from its rightful and proper place here at #1. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you have any opinions you'd like to leave in the comments, please keep them respectful, and I'll be sure to get to them in a timely manner. I have also included a link to a Spotify playlist with the full ranking. Remember to consider leaving a like and subscribe so I can grow my channel to share my projects with more people. With that said, have a great day. God bless.